The officers' club at Naval Special Warfare Center Coronado felt wrong that night. 250 elite operators packed the room shoulder to shoulder. Yet there was no warmth in the air, no easy laughter, no sense of celebration. It felt less like a gathering and more like a test, one everyone expected might fail in full view. Lieutenant Cara Thorne stood near the bar in her dress uniform, posture straight, arms relaxed at her sides. Each time she shifted, the gold trident on her chest caught the light, and with it, more eyes. Whispers crackled through the room like static. Standards, politics, weakness, words carried just loudly enough to be heard. Lieutenant Commander Bryce Reaper Hawkins didn't bother lowering his voice, drink in hand and an audience at his back. He openly questioned how history was being rewritten and whether it ever should have been. Uneven laughter followed, sharp and fueled by alcohol and approval. Cara didn't react. One steady breath. Eyes forward. Across the room, Colonel Declan Thorne watched carefully. He had seen this moment forming the instant she walked in. He knew how dangerous crowds like this could become. Hawkins stepped closer. Too close. His tone shifted, personal now. The space between them disappeared, and the room seemed to inhale as one. His hand began to move. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Military and Veteran Stories so you never miss these true accounts of courage. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? At first glance, Lieutenant Cara Thorne looked out of place. Early 20s. Not tall. No forced swagger or loud confidence. She carried herself with deliberate restraint, as if she had learned to take up less space by design. But there was nothing fragile in her posture, nothing uncertain in the stillness of her hands. Her expression was controlled, not cold, but trained. In her world, emotion was a liability. Reaction was a gift to someone trying to break you. The trident on her chest wasn't symbolic or ceremonial. It was earned in the same water, the same sand, and the same pain as every man in that room. It was pinned there because she finished what most never even dared to start. She survived the pipeline and emerged with her name intact. Her file wasn't built on rumor. Instructors remembered her numbers. Top-tier marksmanship. Calm under pressure. Strong navigation. Underwater operations where others unraveled and she never did. She wasn't the loudest on a team, but when darkness closed in and panic set roots, she was the one who held. Her quiet wasn't personality. It was discipline, etched into muscle. Slow breathing even when her heart surged. Hands loose, never clenched. Weight balanced without looking ready to strike. Her eyes mapped exits without turning her head, doors, corners, sight lines. That awareness came from a lifetime of training that began long before the Navy. Colonel Declan Thorne, I am 2 years old, now had never softened with age. Korea, Cold War operations. Decades of advising after the uniform came off, he taught her not with speeches, but with habits. How to stand without inviting challenge. How to answer without feeding a bully. How silence could do what pride never could. He taught her angles and leverage like other grandfathers taught baseball. How to watch hands. How to read a room. How to end a fight before it began. He didn't teach ruthlessness. He taught precision. Somewhere along the way, a call sign followed her quietly. Firefly. Not a badge, she advertised. A legacy spoken only when it mattered. A small light that survived darkness by refusing to go out. None of the men in the club saw that. They saw her size first, tradition second. Rumors last. Rumors spread as later that standards had been lowered, pressure applied, politics involved. And because she was the first woman assigned to an operational team, every doubt they'd ever carried finally had a target. It didn't matter that she ran the same miles, endured the same cold, passed the same inspections. In a room full of men who built their identity on being the hardest, even a crack in tradition felt like an insult. Her true anchor wasn't the Trident. It was a name that lingered unspoken in the room. Master Chief Garrett Thorne. Call sign Phantom. 15 years in the teams. Killed in Afghanistan in 2011. Cara had been young when he died. young enough for grief to shape her before she fully understood what it meant to lose a father claimed by a brotherhood. In this community, the dead never truly leave. Some of the men there had served with him. Others built their identities in the shadow of his reputation. That made her presence personal. If she failed, the experiment failed. If she succeeded, they'd have to admit they were wrong. That's why Bryce Hawkins mattered. Hawkins was respected, not liked, but respected in the way dangerous men are. Multiple deployments? Experience that pulled younger operators into his orbit. His call sign wasn't a joke. Reaper had been earned where hesitation got people killed. He was also the loudest skeptic in the room. When he spoke, the room followed. Alcohol made him bolder, looser than he'd ever be on a mission. Cara knew all of it. She knew the room was taking cues from him. She knew one reaction would feed the story they wanted. So she chose silence, deliberately. Not fear, not weakness. A decision. She let whispers hit her uniform and fall away. Let laughter rise and die. She kept her posture steady, her gaze level, denying Hawkins the satisfaction of a flinch. When his voice sharpened and aimed directly at her, she made another quiet choice. She wouldn't respond publicly. Not yet. Silence is supposed to calm a room. That night, it did the opposite. Hawkins noticed immediately. She didn't argue. Didn't explain. Didn't even look directly at him. That refusal pressed against his ego like a bruise. He spoke louder. Joked about tradition. About whether standards were still the same, more adjusted for history. A few men laughed reflexively. The laughter thinned. Whispers replaced it. Drinks paused midair. The noise tightened, focused. Hawkins leaned into it. Talked about optics, about politics, about the Navy needing stories more than warriors. He gestured toward her without saying her name. Said experiment and let it hang. Cara didn't move. Her breathing stayed even. Hands loose. Gaze steady. Hawkins stepped closer. The room curved inward without anyone meaning to. Standards matter, he said. They're what keep this place honest. Cara turned her head slightly, just enough to acknowledge him. Her voice was calm, professional, controlled. Sir, she said evenly. I earned my place here under the same standards you did. I'd appreciate it if you stepped back and called it a night. How? The reaction was immediate. A sharp inhale. A glass set down too hard. Hawkins smiled, but the amusement was gone. She hadn't argued. She hadn't played to the crowd. She had treated him like an officer who crossed a line. That was intolerable. He closed the distance again. Careful, he said quietly. You don't lecture me on standards. Cara didn't step back. The room stopped laughing entirely. Anticipation replaced amusement. Hawkins tilted his head. I served with men who bled for their place. Men who didn't need favors? The word landed deliberately. Across the room, Thorne shifted forward. That's enough, he said quietly. Hawkins barely glanced at him. This is between us, he said, eyes on Cara. Or does she need help speaking? She's done nothing to deserve this, Declan replied. In another room, another night, that might have ended it. Hawkins laughed once, sharp. Oh, I think she has, he said, nodding at the trident on her chest. The weight of the insignia pressed into the room. Eyes drifted toward its resentment, curiosity, fear of change. Hawkins stepped closer again, posture shifting from show to threat. You know the problem? He said. It's not you. It's the idea. The idea this place needs saving. He leaned in, low enough that only a few could hear. Your father was a hell of an operator. That name carried gravity. He died out there, Hawkins continued. Good men die when teams aren't strong enough. When someone can't keep up. Declan stepped in fast. That's enough, Hawkins waved him off. Maybe, he said calmly. Weakness runs in families. The air went still. Not quiet still. No one laughed. No one whispered. No one moved. Faces hardened, jaws set. Even the men who had been nodding moments earlier looked away. Cara's eyes didn't change, but something inside her shifted, precise and mechanical. Her grandfather's voice surfaced, calm, and distant. Not words principles, distance, timing, do not meet strength head-on. Redirected, Hawkins mistook her stillness for shock. That's what this is, isn't it? He said, legacy. You think the name carries you. Declan stepped between them without hesitation, angling his body protectively without drawing attention. You're drunk, he said. Step away. Hawkins' smile disappeared. Move, he snapped. Declan didn't. Hawkins' gaze slid back to Cara, and something dark settled behind his eyes. His shoulders rolled forward an inch. His stance widened wrong for a club, right for violence. Several men noticed at once. A ripple passed through the crowd. Someone muttered. Someone else shifted, unsure whether to intervene or watch. What would you have done in that moment? Cara didn't answer aloud. She didn't need to. Her body had already decided. Her weight adjusted subtly, not back, not forward balanced. Hands low, relaxed. Her eyes locked onto Hawkins' center line, not his face. She read the tension in his forearm, the angle of his shoulder, the slight overload on his right side. Hawkins stepped closer. Too close. Now close enough that words were no longer the weapon. His hand began to rise. For a fraction of a second, nothing happened, and in that fraction, the room changed. Cara's stance shifted barely. Inches, one heel settled. Weight distributed evenly. It wasn't retreat. It wasn't challenge. It was deliberate balance, chosen like someone who had done this 1,000 times before. Hawkins didn't notice. He was already convinced of the outcome. His confidence filled the space between them. Loud, careless. He had size, reach, reputation. In his mind, this was a correction. A warning delivered in public. He expected fear, or at least hesitation. He saw neither. Cara's breathing slowed further. Shoulders loose, hands open, fingers relaxed, palms angled inward, not clenched, not raised. Ready without signaling it, across the room, Colonel Declan Thorne didn't rush forward. He didn't shout. He didn't flinch. His stillness wasn't indifference. It was recognition. He had seen this posture before in other uniforms, in other rooms. The moment when violence had already been decided and only timing remained, a few men began to notice details that didn't fit the story they'd been telling themselves. One saw the angle of Cara's lead foot out center, creating space without retreat. Another noticed her gaze tracking Hawkins' chest and hips instead of his face. Someone else registered the distance she maintained, close enough to invite error, far enough to avoid being trapped. The laughter was gone. The whispers had stopped. What remained was attention heavy. Focused like the seconds before a breach charge detonates, Hawkins' shoulders rolled forward again. His center of gravity lifted as he prepared to move, telegraphing intention without realizing it. His confidence was still there, but now it was exposed. Cara didn't mirror him. She didn't tense. She waited near the bar. An operator who had been silent all night stiffened as Hawkins murmured a name under his breath. Phantom. The man's jaw tightened. He knew that name. He had known the man behind it. Suddenly, the scene felt different. He glanced around. Others had gone quiet, two expressions shifting from curiosity to concern. The room felt wrong. Not dangerous yet, just off. Like a plan that no longer matched the terrain. Time stretched. Sound dulled. Even the music faded into something distant and irrelevant. Glasses froze midair. Breaths were held without decision. Cara's world narrowed. Her grandfather's lessons weren't thoughts, they were patterns. Distance, flow, momentum. Don't strike first unless you must. If you must, end it cleanly. Hawkins closed the remaining space. His arm rose elbow bending, shoulder turning the motion clumsy with certainty. He believed the moment belonged to him. That size and status were enough. Cara's weight settled fully now. Spine aligned. Chin level. Her eyes tracked the movement without urgency. She didn't react to the hand. She reacted to the shift before it, the imbalance that always comes before aggression. Declan saw it. He didn't intervene. A ripple of unease passed through the room. Some leaned forward. Others leaned back. No one spoke. It felt like the instant before a shot breaks. The room held its breath. Hawkins swung, not wild. Controlled enough to feel justified. A sharp forward motion meant to intimidate more than injure. His shoulder turned first. His weight shifted the wrong way. Confidence outran balance. Cara didn't meet the strike. She moved just enough to let it pass. Her body rotated a fraction. Feet pivoted smoothly. No step back. No retreat. She redirected the momentum Hawkins had already committed. Guiding it past her center line, like water slipping around stone, the motion was nearly invisible. As Hawkins's arm drove into empty space, his balance broke just for a moment. That moment was enough. Cara's right hand drove inward, compact and precise, landing beneath his ribs. Not a showy punch. A liver, strike-timed, not powered. Hawkins's breath left him in a sharp, involuntary gasp. His body folded before his mind understood why, before gravity finished its work. Her other hand followed, clean and efficient. Knuckles connected at the hinge of his jaw. No wind-up, no excess. Just leverage applied perfectly. The system shut down. Hawkins dropped straight down heavy, sudden. The sound of his body hitting the floor cut through the room final. No cheers came. No surge forward. The silence was absolute. 250 operators stood frozen, staring at the man on the floor and then at the woman who had put him there. Drinks hung forgotten. Conversations never resumed. Cara stepped back once, creating space. Her posture remained neutral. Hands lowered naturally. She glanced at Hawkins only long enough to confirm what she already knew. He was out. She turned slightly, opening her stance to the room. Breathing steady. Expression blank. No triumph. No anger. No satisfaction. Only control. No one knew what the correct response was supposed to be. Cara spoke before anyone else could. "He moved to hit me," she said evenly. "I defended myself. No justification. No elaboration. A report, not a declaration." The words closed the moment. Colonel Declan Thorne released a breath. He'd been holding since the room went still, quiet, waited with recognition. He didn't move to her side. He trusted the discipline he'd helped build. Shock replaced certainty. Assumptions unraveled. Men avoided each other's eyes. Hawkins on the floor no longer looked like a force, just a man who had miscalculated. Still, no one spoke. Silence, in a room like this, meant understanding. Rear Admiral Hayes entered without raising his voice, and the room adjusted instinctively. He took in the scene in seconds. The fallen officer, the distance around him, Cara Thorne, upright and composed. Declan watchful nearby. Hayes listened before asking anything. Accounts came quickly short, clear, aligned. Hawkins closed distance. Hawkins initiated contact. Cara defended herself. Hayes nodded once. "Lieutenant," he said quietly. "Yes, sir. I've reviewed your training file. Your evaluations reflect discipline, not aggression." He paused. "This will be discussed, not because it was mishandled, but because it happened publicly." "Yes, sir." "History invites scrutiny," he said. "Fair or not, yes, sir, Master Chief." Garrett Thorne, Hayes continued. "Call sign, Phantom." The room stilled further. "Yes, sir."
Is his posture?
Softened not approval, but recognition. "I served with men who served with your father. His reputation was earned. That was enough." The tension drained into reverence. Men stood straighter. Eyes dropped. The trident on Cara's chest no longer looked like a challenge. It looked like continuation. "You're dismissed for now," Hay said. "Remain available." "Yes, sir." No applause followed. No words. Only silence and understanding. Later, salutes appeared quietly, one by one, instinctive. Unannounced, Cara acknowledged none of them. Recognition was not her goal. Control was, Outside, Declan walked beside her briefly. You did exactly what you were trained to do, he said. That was enough, she nodded. Strength doesn't announce itself. It waits, and when it moves, it does so without excess.